Alrighty, my friends, we are back with yet another
wabi-sabi episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
Wabi-sabi episode?
Wabi-sabi. That is from the Japanese, meaning something that is perfect because it's just a little effed up.
Oh, nice. It's wabi-sabi.
Yeah, kind of like us trying to get connected tonight.
That's right. Little wafu wabi-sabi action.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Well, I dig that. So it's a wabi-sabi episode of V8 Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clark.
And I think I've run out of English overselling adjectives. I've had to span out to other countries now. So we are now an international show, Kev.
Right on. I see that. That's. I feel good about that.
I do too. We're really big in Japan.
Yeah. Well, I learned we're actually big in Tennessee, so that's good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Had to talk to a guy the other day who listens and watches our videos and stuff and wants to actually send us a car. And he said, yo, everybody in Tennessee knows you guys.
Oh, right on. So well, thank you, Tennessee.
Yeah, we welcome our Tennessee friends. And before we get too far down the road, I'm gonna throw out a couple things real fast. First, some gratitude to our listeners because we have a lot of people listening now. We really appreciate everybody sharing some time with us. A big thank you to my lovely wife, Kelly, who's been like a huge promoter of this show this past week. I mean, she always is, but this week she took action.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Overnight, our base increased dramatically.
Yes. So she invited all of her friends on Facebook to like our V8 Radio Facebook page. And boy, the numbers just skyrocketed. So thank you so much. And welcome to everybody who's new, who was, coerced by Kelly. I'm not sure what she threatened you with, but...
Ponytail power knows no limits.
Yeah, right. No, welcome aboard. And I think we're holding strong on the iTunes thing. In the top 20 in the 19th slot for now about a month almost.
Yeah,
a month.
Yeah, we've been really hanging tough. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. So if you like the show and you want to subscribe, do it on iTunes because that might help us go after the number one slot of Car Talk. And,
they're going down. They have not budged since the beginning of iTunes.
They have not, and considering that one of the members is deceased, you would think it wouldn't be a hard topic to.
My God!
To chase down.
Well, Elvis still continues to draw lots of revenue.
This is true,
even though he's gone. So I guess Car Talk is the Elvis of podcasts.
It is. There's your quote of the day.
Yeah. My apologies to the Presley family.
That's all right. No, I like Car Talk too. I'm a huge fan. Been listening to that show forever. It's an honor to be in the same 20 with those guys.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. All right. So typically on this show we start off with an automotive trivia question because this is V8 Radio and the V8 doesn't refer to tomato juice. It's car stuff. Did you happen to prepare a trivia question for this episode?
I have got the mother of all trivia questions, and I have to thank my lovely wife, Jennifer Clark, for coming up with this one. She is the bomb. Oh, yeah. Oh, this one's amazing, I've got to say.
Wow.
So,
well, I'm a little bit intimidated right now.
You should be, because this one's going to blow your mind, man.
All
right. All right, Kevin, you've been in the car business for the industry, as it were, for quite some time. Your life pretty much revolves around it. You've seen some pretty cool cars, some really way out designs, some designs that are really out of this world. And there are some cars that are so far out of this world, they are actually on other planets. So, Kevin, my question to you is, how many cars are there on the moon?
That's a great question.
And this scratches your love of space travel as well as cars. So, boom.
Yeah. How about that? Boom.
I'm dropping the mic. I'm walking away.
Very nice.
Much to the delight of most of our listeners.
If I'm not mistaken, the very first lunar rover was launched on the Apollo 12 mission, which is interesting you bring that up because this past week, as a matter of fact, Kelly and I experienced the Apollo 11 feature film that just came out.
Right. Yeah,
and we
yeah,
saw
yeah.
it in the IMAX theater, and there are many parallels, I think, between space travel and cars. Part of the deal is that was 1969, and this particular film, the short version of this story is that the filmmaker was tasked by CNN to do this documentary, and doing his research, he found out that NASA was actually working with Hollywood studios to produce documentaries about the whole Apollo program.
Really?
From Apollo 8 up to 13 at least. And they hired cinematographers and Hollywood guys to shoot all this film. And they shot it on 70 millimeter, wide format motion picture film. And at the end of the deal, 1972, they were going to start producing the film, but NASA determined that the country was kind of burned out on space at that point. Mm-hmm. So they didn't do anything with all the film. They boxed it up and put it away. And the film that most people see is all 8 millimeter stuff, not this widescreen format. And NASA didn't have any way to even look at it. They just put it on a shelf. Well, this latest crew unearthed, if you will, 165 reels of film that are all 70 millimeter that they can't say they've never been shown, but they've never really been edited or anything done with them.
Right.
64 reels of that were on Apollo 11 alone. And that's the basis of this film that just came out. So it is a little tangent there, but totally worth checking out. Yeah. And so that was 11 where we landed on the moon the first time. We went back in 12 and drove around. And I think there was probably another 3 or so missions that brought rovers. So I'm going to say a total of 4 car-type vehicles.
4 cars on the moon.
On the moon is my guess.
That's pretty forward-thinking stuff by NASA to film that on real wide motion picture film. With a mindset to show that to the public in a really cinematic format. So good on them.
Well,
Just too bad it took 50 years to see.
Yeah, that part kind of sucked. I mean, it's great that it's the 50th anniversary, and if you knew nothing about this mission and you watched this film, you'd be blown away just as much if you were an enthusiast like myself.
Is that right?
Some of the other cool things are that there was 18,000 hours of audio recorded for this project, and all the audio in the film some of it is synced up to video for the very first time because they were just tape recordings. So for the very first time, we see flight director Gene Kranz see him and hear him say, "We're go for landing on the moon." That video, the film existed, and the sound existed. They'd never been married before. And
I'll be darned.
Yes, this project did all that, which is it's incredible. And another forward-thinking element from NASA was that they had a public relations officer on each of the 3 shifts during the whole Apollo 11 mission, and it was his job to narrate what he saw. So he was just sitting there with this kind of monotone voice, and I know you've heard the voice before, but it's like, and now the 11 crew is getting ready to touch down on the moon. And you're just kind of recalling all this stuff. And in the background, you've got the chatter of all the rest of the flight commanders and everything. But that narration is the sole narration for this film as well.
Is it?
And that intermixed with Walter Cronkite, of course, because he was the news anchor that covered a lot of it. And even the music is done in a period-correct Moog synthesizer. So it's all right on.
Dig it, man. Yeah, I've been looking forward to seeing that. And I remember when you and Kelly saw it on IMAX, you were really blown away. That really got me even more excited about it.
Yes, yes. And of course, the other cool thing, astronauts are always cool, but many of them drove Corvettes, and there was a whole big story about that. And those Apollo 12 guys in particular, Charles Conrad, Dick Gordon, and Alan Bean all had Riverside Gold 427 69 Corvettes with a custom black kind of a wing paint job on them, and their crew position initials in an emblem on the fenders.
Really?
And many people thought that they were given those cars, but there was actually a dealership in Florida, Jim Rathman Chevrolet, who created a $1 lease program for the astronauts. Because being, national, officers of the government, they couldn't accept gifts. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what happened to those cars.
The gold ones, I think a couple of them are still out there. And then I think the Apollo 15 crew, Irwin Warden and Dave Scott had the red, white, and blue ones. So it was, one guy had a red Corvette with a white and blue stripe. The next guy had a white Corvette with a red and blue stripe. So they're all red, white, and blue. Just the base color of the car was solid red, solid white, solid blue. Yeah, and then they mixed up the stripes. And I think a couple of those have been in auctions over the years.
Man.
Yeah, pretty neat stuff. Well,
yeah, it is great stuff.
I guess that all started with Alan Shepard, who was the first guy in space. Chevrolet actually gave him a 62 Corvette back then. And then that kind of... But, Corvettes and astronauts, you're flying around a tin can and driving around a piece of plastic. It's all kind of...
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. Oh, boy. And I do, before I get to my trivia question, I know we're derailed again. Last time was World War II, now we're in space. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. But
this is great stuff. It's so wabi-sabi. It's crazy.
It is. I got to thank you, my friend, for providing me with a great book, the Chuck Yeager autobiography that you sent me. That you're right, is very hard to put down, and it's
that is a great book. I like I told you, I read it. I was in the Air Force. I was probably 21 when I picked that up, and I read it the whole. Honest to God, this is a true story. I read it the whole flight over to Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War.
Wow.
On my first trip over there, I had that. It was an 18-hour flight. I had my nose in that book for 18. Every available moment I had my nose in that book.
Good for you.
It was amazing. Just amazing. I was so tired. And after we landed, when we got to our villas, I read it and I finished it. And I didn't sleep for 2 days reading that book. It was so good.
Well, and that's moving because it's 450 pages or so. I mean, it's,
oh, yeah.
So you were on the plane going to war, reading about Chuck Yeager getting shot down over France in World War II. And how to get out of, Nazi-occupied France, basically.
Right.
That's,
I'm on a jet reading that. Like, oh, okay.
Is that a good decision there? I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? I was so dumb back then, it didn't even cross my mind that we might crash.
Yeah, nice.
Not even.
At least you wouldn't have to fight off the Germans,
Right. Just the sharks over the water.
Right. Okay, so refocus. Back to trivia. So that was a great trivia question.
Thank you. Kevin says 4. All right.
Yeah, and you could thank your wife for that giant tangent there, because
you bet. She'll be happy to hear that.
I hope so. All right, so my trivia question to you pales in comparison.
Every trivia question, I not meaning to toot my own horn, every trivia question is going to pale in comparison to that whopper.
That was a good one. Well, mine is the opposite. It's very, very terrestrial.
Okay.
So we go from the cars on the moon to the cars on the ground. And my question to you is, what is the longest interstate highway in the United States? And the bonus, where does it start and stop?
Dude, you need Jesus in your life.
Who says I don't have Jesus in my life? You could be on the dashboard on the drive on the longest interstate in the country.
Longest interstate highway. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So interstate, like an I number.
Correct. You start with I for interstate. They were part of the Eisenhower interstate system.
Right.
Designed.
Ooh, a little piece of trivia about that, about the Eisenhower interstate system. I think 1 mile in every 5 has to be completely straight to allow for a plane to land on it.
That is a good piece of trivia, but it's false.
It is not false!
Yeah. It is a myth that the 1 in 5 miles has to be straight for.
But I read it.
Well, you know where that came from. The Germans in World War II used their autobahns as runways on the straight sections, and I think that got perpetuated into the United States interstate system.
Well, not that piece of the show will be edited out, everybody, just so you know.
not to say that you can't land an airplane.
We'll not be hearing that part of the show.
Yeah. Well, that was part of the interstate process, was to ensure that there'd be ample opportunities for troop movement or equipment movement. So yeah, there is a military subtext. Something that is true is there are sections of unmarked interstate that are purely designed for military operations.
Is that right?
Which is interesting. But today we're just concerned with what's the longest.
The longest interstate highway in the United States, and where does it begin and where does it end? Oh, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little hint. You know, if you think of the map, you know, kind of the ones that go left to right or right to left are probably the longer ones. And you've driven
probably
on most
appreciate
of those.
that. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna say it's I'm gonna say it's I-40.
40. Right through the heart.
The heartland, yep. It's gonna start or end in California and makes its way to Virginia.
All right. Mike's guess is I-40 CA to VA.
CA to VA. Cadva.
All right, man.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be next show's overselling adjective? It's Cadva.
Cadva.
What are we?
Just coined that.
We're Wabasabini. What are we? Wasonabi?
Fratzog. That's what we are. You son of a bitch.
Have I got a story for you, by the way?
Yeah. Wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi.
Yep.
So, longtime listeners of our show have heard the Fratzog story several times, and it's a trivia question of what was the Dodge logo from the 60s and early 70s called, this little triangular thing. And it was actually called a Fratzog, which, you know, it's a ridiculous name because some designer, they asked him, what do you call this thing? And he goes, I don't know, it's a Fratzog, and it's stuck, and that's the official name. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, we're buttoning up a 66 Charger in the shop. It's a beautiful car, medium blue, white interior, 383. We just did a roller cam swap on it and a few things. And a customer comes in and he points to the logo in the grill and says, "What's that?" And I said, "That's a Fratzog."
Why didn't you call
me? And he looked at me like I had three heads.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And
well, funny you say that because I got a text from one certain Trevor Spence of a Fratzog that he texted over to me.
There you go. You got Fratzog on the brain.
Yeah.
It was that car probably because he was working in the shop. And walked right past it and thought enough to send it to you. How nice.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Yeah. One of my faves.
All of our team members are good people.
Yeah, they are good people.
Yeah.
Speaking of good people, how about my best friend Chip Foose being named Builder of the Decade?
Holy mackerel!
At the Grand National Roadster Show.
This is that's quite an accomplishment. Obviously, Foose, is well deserving. Have you washed that hand from SEMA yet?
No. I'm having it encased in glass next week.
Yeah, well, it's that's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty serious. Builder of the Decade, and it's interesting that these accolades are given, and sometimes you wonder, what's the. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not for them and I'm not against them. I think it's good, obviously great to recognize talent and have trophies and winners and all the rest of it. When we start getting, I guess the equivalent is, my car is a one of one because it was the only one that they forgot to put the ashtray liner in on the left side.
Right.
When we start to get down to like,
the complete minutia.
Right. The best quarter panel lower trim sander of the past 8 months, and we certainly haven't gotten there. But when I heard Builder of the Decade, I thought, wow, somebody's really expanding the capacity for recognition there, which is, and not many people, there's a lot of people who could be, I guess a Builder of the Decade. You look at Gene Winfield, he could have been the Builder of 7 decades,
Yeah. Well, it could be the Builder of the Century pretty soon.
Right, how about that?
Right. How about that?
So that was pretty cool. Chip is definitely a deserving guy for that, and very happy to see him get that. Did you actually see any of the kind of the presentation ceremony or anything, or?
I didn't. I saw a clip on YouTube about it real quick.
I didn't see any of it, so I'm not sure how that went down.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was totally gracious and happy. And
of course. Of course. My gosh. Nothing rattles that guy.
No.
He's cool as a cucumber. So I'm just wondering if they have to wait 10 more years before they give that award out again now.
Right.
They just burned it up.
There you go. Right. So all these other people, they got to wait, unless it's the Builder of decade plus one.
Right. Well, it was the previous decade. Now next year will be the next decade.
Yeah. So his will be the next one will be the previous decade minus 2009.
Yeah.
10 to 20. Yeah. Right. Huh. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. Till the end of the decade, kids.
Right. Well, last weekend was the Riddler Award at the Detroit Autorama.
Right.
And the car that won was a hybrid 59 Cadillac made into a 2-door wagon.
Oh, my gosh.
What was your take on that particular vehicle?
I would love to give an opinion on it, but I missed that day in class.
But you are giving an opinion on it by your answer.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it? Oh, well,
yeah.
Heck, I can't ask you about it then.
I missed that. That's what I mean. I missed that day in class. I can't give an opinion.
All right. Well,
I spaced it out.
It's been a controversial vehicle for sure, because it's Riddler cars are always on a different level. People put untold amounts of time, and I heard this one was 15 years and $2.5 million.
Come on.
Right. And
gosh.
You think, some people are over the moon, just crazy about it. They just think it's the greatest thing ever. Some people, I think they look at the time and money spent and go, it could be better, because they feel maybe they could have done something better, or they feel another builder could have done something better. And then you have people who, really just didn't like the car, which is okay too. It's not built for them; it's built for the owner. But they used some interesting textures inside. There's multi-tone wood in like the wagon bed, the station wagon bed. And that carries through to the doors and on the dash. And a lot of people said, Cadillac never would have done that. So
I'm looking at it right now.
All right.
I just brought it up.
There you go.
That pink Cadillac.
Right. The color got a lot of coverage, both yay and nay. It's got a silver top with a pink color.
Right.
The roof is from a 57 Nomad. So they went back a few years to get the roof to make the 59 Cad station wagon. I know designer friends of mine that are not happy with this car at all because the design language, it's kind of wabi-sabi, if you will.
Well done.
And I only think that the things that they've been saying have been that there were perhaps missed opportunities to really capitalize on this design. So, for example, if you were to do this car, it's kind of a what if exercise of, if Cadillac did a two-door wagon in 59, what would they do? Well, one pointed out that they certainly wouldn't use a roof from a 57. They would have designed a 59 style roof. And the fun is, what would that have looked like?
So I can see that.
So embrace what Cadillac was doing at the time in their design studios and adapt it to this car, rather than just grab available things, put them together, and end up with it that way. So,
yeah. Well, it's an interesting looking car.
Yeah, and it's also like 1,000 horsepower Nelson Racing twin turbo 632 or something. I mean, so it's got things that, again, you wouldn't normally associate with a very deluxe looking car. Being high powered, but that's what makes it fun. And at the end of the day,
right.
I can't say anything. I've never built one, never competed, at that level. Is it what I would have done? No. I've had some ideas for some phantom wagons like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy that this car got built, and that our hobby and industry is strong enough to support these kind of projects.
Right.
So that, jerk offs like you and I can, comment on them.
Can bag on them a little bit. Right on. America.
Full disclosure, if anybody sees any of our vehicles and they have something to say about them, you're more than welcome. It's really all about the builder and the owner, Of course, we try to make things that have mass appeal. But
True. Yeah, that is an interesting design.
Yes.
I'm not sure how I feel about it yet.
Well, you got to the end of the show.
Yeah, okay.
to start feeling it.
Start formulating an opinion, Michael.
Well,
goodness.
The crazy thing is at that level, this is like the most extreme example of personalizing a car, right? And we've seen in years past people that have designed cars and built them for this competition or other very high level cars that are so personalized that there's only going to be a few people that are totally in love with it. Meanwhile, you have things like a 67 Mustang convertible that everybody loves,
Right.
And I think the difference is that millions of people have had personal experiences with a stock-looking 67 Mustang. But right now, the only personal experiences with that Cadillac are the guys that built it and now the people that have experienced it at that show. So it doesn't have this broad appeal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
that's a good point.
The bummer is, everybody always has to talk about the money. And I brought it up. I said it was a $2.5 million car. Yeah. Would you get that out of it if you sold it? And it's like, no, you wouldn't. And obviously it wasn't built to sell.
You'd maybe get 10% out of it, I think.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's why I think, we have people that ask us, it's like, would you build one of those? And I think from a creativity standpoint, we would love the opportunity, if you had an opportunity to just do whatever you wanted. But I don't think I would be comfortable straying, 180 off the mark. I think I would do whatever I could to capture and expand upon the elements of a particular car that had familiarity and had that experience shared element, just make it nicer and better. So that people still recognize it and they go, oh man. And the great thing is when, you've got a full custom, whatever, a Camaro or we're on a Mustang for this example.
Yeah.
And you've changed everything on it and people still get it. Oh, I love those. They don't know that every subtle thing has been improved.
Sure.
It still has that draw. So.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm can't disagree with that at all. Yeah. Yeah. That is an interesting car.
Still looking at it.
I mean, I don't necessarily hate it. I don't necessarily love it.
Right.
I mean, it's different. It's definitely different. I mean, I like 59 Cadillacs.
Yeah.
And I've never seen, obviously never seen a 59 wagon. But I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, that's all right. You don't have to.
I mean,
know.
it doesn't.
There's no right answer.
it's not polarizing to me one way or the other right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure seeing it in person, there are elements of the build quality that are probably unbelievable, and that has to be acknowledged.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate the time and effort that went into it. Yeah. I mean, money notwithstanding, that took a lot of work, a lot of really skilled labor to do.
Yeah.
And a good eye to get everything lining up, like it is. So, I mean, I think it's cool for that reason, just for all the effort that went into it.
Well, you can marinate on that for a while, and
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
we'll see what stands up at the end. And I got 67 Mustang on the brain because we're sending one home tomorrow, which we're very happy about.
Is that right?
Yeah, a great customer, great friend of mine, a guy that I've known since 7th grade.
No way.
Yeah, his name is Steve. He actually listens to the podcast.
Hey, right on, Steve.
Steve is in the Chicago area, and he's had this 67 convertible for a while, and he called it the Rustang.
I think everybody's called it Mustang the Rustang at one time.
Yeah, and he wasn't kidding. It's a blue convertible, 289 car, automatic. That it's another one of those projects that came to us for maybe a tune-up and some suspension work and a few improvements, and we got it in the shop and put it on the rack and went, this is kind of what we found here.
Oh boy.
And he was understanding, and he likes the car a lot and really wanted to keep it and improve it. So we ended up doing another bottom side restoration.
Oh, is that right?
Tail pan to firewall, front aprons, front frame rails, all that sheet metal came out, put all new steel in underneath. Yeah, big project.
Oof. Yeah.
And he didn't want to go so far as a full frame off repaint. It just wasn't in the cards or the budget, quite frankly, at this point. But it all went back together beautifully, and now he doesn't have a rusty Mustang anymore.
He has a solid foundation now to do whatever he wants now.
Yeah, and we were able, along the way, sometimes parts that we're not going to use on other projects, we hang on to that stuff and find new homes for certain things.
That's great.
So we did that 5.0 Coyote Bronco a while ago, and it donated it had a 302 roller cam small block Ford in it. It was it was good motor for all intents and purposes. So the 289 that was in the Mustang was leaking, and it had some compression issues, and it was kind of getting tired. So the 302 from the Bronco found its way into the Mustang, and
all right,
looks the part and everything. And we put some new interior pieces in the car, had a new convertible top done. The team did a tune-up on the ignition and brakes, and I drove it today, and it's wonderful.
Oh, nice. Oh, he's going to love it.
Yeah, I really hope so. I sent him pictures of the car today, and it's getting loaded on the transport tomorrow morning, and it's going home just in time for probably another snowstorm in Chicago. Yeah, but probably. It had sat for probably a solid week or two weeks maybe since we'd moved it, and we hit the key and it lit right off. So
that's awesome.
It's it'll be ready to rock with a nice new top and comfy interior, and he'll be able to enjoy it all summer and for many years to come. So thank you, Steve. I love these stories, and I told him today too. I said I understand that this one became a bigger project than anybody anticipated, and he said, well, don't they all? In many ways he's right, but it's our mission to make sure that if a project does grow, that everybody knows why. And at that point he could have said, no, I don't want to do it, and we would have been fine with that.
Right.
He wanted to go with it, and our guys were happy to bring it around. So maybe someday he'll repaint it. If not, he can go drive this and not worry about getting it chipped or scratched in the local parking lots.
Right. He can really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just nice enough on the outside. It's all one color and it's blue and it looks pretty good. So and I'm underselling the car. It looks really good. Even for an older paint job, it's held up pretty well.
Good.
But it drives so much nicer than it looks, which is great.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah,
right on.
Love those.
Yeah, for sure. What I really wanted to talk to you about is that Dodge pickup that you have in your shop that you're putting that Benz diesel engine in. Holy cow!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Well, it's amazing, and I've been a little slow to share that one because I'm not sure it's going to happen.
No.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you some background on the project. So there's a gentleman who lives, I don't know, about an hour from us, and he's had this 47 Dodge pickup truck. It's restored. It's red, black fenders, looks great.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a neat old truck. And his wife was driving a 2006 Mercedes E-Class CDI diesel, and she loved this car. And it's a beautiful shape. I think it's got 200,000 miles on it, but you'd never tell. And that CDI, it's the engine family is called an OM 648, I believe. It's 3.2 liters. It makes like 226 horsepower, 379 foot-pounds, turbo diesel, and it's a straight six, and it pushes this Benz down the highway at 40 miles per gallon. And an E-Class is the midsize, so it's not a little car, you know.
Right.
And they got to the point where they didn't want, a 200,000-mile car anymore, and she wanted something. They ended up getting a Jeep, like a Grand Cherokee type thing. Something that's a little bit easier to get in and out of for them, a little more functionality. Well, the dealer was going to give them like $1,500 for this Benz.
Come on.
Correct. And it just,
God dang it.
It inflamed our customer so much that he's like, no, I am not trading it in. And I like the way this runs. And I'll have these guys put this diesel in my old truck.
Yeah.
And that'll be the end of it.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Right, exactly. So he brought us, he first stopped in and we talked to him about it. And I didn't, you don't really know how serious people are in the beginning. But then a while later, he brought the truck and the car, dropped them both off. And he said, see what you think. So our guys were going crazy over this thing. For the chance to mate these two together. And it would be a combination of the Benz diesel engine and automatic transmission mated with a custom drive shaft, and then using all the axles and wheels and tires from the Dodge. So it would look like nothing ever happened, until you opened the hood.
Right.
And I actually found out that we were very scared of the electronics in this thing from a workable standpoint, because
rightly so.
Yes, because today everything is integrated together. So, for example, we've done engine swaps where if the original key isn't used, the theft deterrent system doesn't work and you can't start it.
Right.
And you can get around it, but it's going to be $1,000 in programming and a $2,000 custom harness, and it all adds up. And on the GM and Ford and more common cars, we kind of know our way around a lot of that stuff. This one, it's a foreign job. It's a German operating system, and it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we learned that there's a guy in Seattle who does these transplants, and he said it's actually not that hard. You need to use the key. You need to use the original shifter. There's a steering interlock in the column, I believe, for theft. That has to be transplanted into the vehicle. And then you need the ECM, and that's really about it. If you have those elements, you can turn the key and it'll start. It doesn't need to see the body control module. It doesn't need to see the gauges. It doesn't need to see all this other stuff. So he said, really, it's not that bad of a job.
Oh, nice.
And the CDI is a direct injection diesel, which means it's got like a 20,000 PSI pump at the nozzles in the engine. But to feed that, you can put any old electric fuel pump in the tank and just deadhead it, just have it push fuel forward. And then
to the high pressure pump, right?
Right, yeah. And the engine up front will regulate it, so you don't even need to deal with that. So that's pretty easy. So we started getting
hold up.
Right, we started getting wound up saying, hey, this could work. A very interesting engineering challenge that this guy in Seattle has overcome and told us about is that on the Benz, there's individual wheel speed sensors at all four corners. And that's how it knows how fast the car is going. It tells it when to shift and all that jazz. Well, what this guy does is he ditches all those sensors and he puts a speed sensor on the drive shaft. So and then there's a converter box that allows it to communicate with the CAN bus network of the engine ECM. And he said if you hook that up, it will shift at the proper RPM. It'll drive just like it did in the Benz car.
Wow.
Without monkeying with the wheel size and gear ratio, just because it's all basing its input
on the drive shaft speed.
On the drive shaft speed, yeah. So we thought, well, that's pretty cool. So we're getting there. The downside comes in when we physically try to fit that engine in the Dodge because it's very long. It's a long straight six.
The Dodge nose is kind of long, isn't it?
It is. We would have to move the radiator forward inside the nose of the grill.
Okay.
And when we started kind of doing the math to put the crank center line, kind of where the original flathead is, and integrate that shifter and all those things that we're talking about, and take all that stuff out of the Benz, there's time and labor there. We're pretty confident that we can do it. We just think it's going to take a lot more time than he's anticipating.
Just say, come on, man. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Right. Well,
we don't do these things because they're easy. We do them because they're hard.
Because they're hard. Yeah, thank you, JFK.
Yeah.
So, again, we're not afraid of that, except if the whole point of this is to spite some dealer that was going to give him $1,500, and now it's going to cost them $50,000 to do, or whatever. I don't even know. That becomes a concern. So because we're problem solvers, we worked it backwards and said, you know what? The blue book on this Benz is probably closer to $5,000 than $1,500. So if you want a more modern driveline in your Dodge truck and you don't want to get ripped off on the Benz, what if you sell the Benz, or we help you sell it at a more standard market value, and let's put a Cummins diesel in the old Dodge? And that has parts that are readily available. It's not reinventing the programming wheel, and we could get, and one of our guys, Caleb, one of our technicians, expressed interest in buying the Benz. So we might even have a home for it already.
Holy cow! Right on.
So yeah.
Well, all right. I'll accept that.
Yeah. So it's not quite the, the weird, convoluted Daimler Chrysler product.
That really, I got to tell you, that really turned me on when I saw that. I'm like, that is, oh man, I was just could taste all the engineering that it would have to go into that.
Yes.
I'm like, this is going to be great.
It would have been really, really cool. And who knows, it might still happen. So we haven't presented, the customer with our program yet, but that's part of what we do, is have to have our customers' best interests at hand and not just start on it and,
Right. Yeah.
And it not be palatable to him because, we're not building a Riddler car. We don't have an open checkbook on this thing.
No, I really dig the some of these oddball projects you've been getting. I mean, what first thing that comes to mind, of course, is the Murata that you did a while ago.
Yep.
This Dodge truck and then the Metro. The Metro van. And
the 61 Metro van is running now. Is
it?
It's really only a couple weeks from being done. Yeah.
Get out of here. That's awesome.
So the Tahoe chassis swap went very smoothly because Trevor did it, and I had nothing to do with it. See, folks.
No seagull flying over there, baby.
Yeah, right. The reality is we have such talented people that make all this stuff look easy, even to the rest of us in the shop. And many times it is definitely not easy. And it's an indicator of their level of talent and vision and ability. And we had all kind of discussed the plan, obviously, of using that chassis, but Trevor did the vast majority of the work himself on that, and it's going to sing. So it runs now. It runs like a champ. It's so quiet. It's weird. I mean, it's just like
that is weird.
A new Tahoe, So he's finishing connecting the dots on the steering. The brakes are in place. So shortly it will be a fully functioning finished project, and I think it's pretty much on target with budget at this point, which is good. Which is
great.
Always a challenge, and Trevor's been concerned with that. But not to pick on him this whole time, because in every department, all of our team members are doing just brilliant work. We just finished up that LS 3 Monte Carlo SS. I shared a picture of a white one a little while ago.
Oh yeah,
and that was an interesting project because it's definitely not the first time an LS motor went into Monte Carlo. But the customer had been amassing parts, and he sent us all the parts and said, "Can you put this together?" And typically, because of our experience, we like to be able to select the parts. So we had a few that weren't right. The radiator wasn't right for the application, and a couple things kind of added time to the project, including the oil pan. The oil pan, a Holley changeover pan, got put on it to fit in the car. And it turned out that there was some kind of issue where it actually was contacting a rod bearing, a rod cap.
Oh, boy.
And ticking. So
oh, man,
we had to go backwards on that because we didn't put that together, so we would have known on the stand. But at the end of the day, Mike, our technician, did a lot of the legwork on that car, a lot of the finish work on it. And the customer wanted it to be quiet. Here's another one that's quiet. And I got a ride in that car for the first time today since it's been fully buttoned up. And it sounds almost exactly like my buddy's old 87 305 car that we had talked about. Yeah, we talked about it on our V8 radio music show a while back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that car. Yeah.
You get in this thing and start it up, and it's got this idle and the sound in the cabin that just sounds like a regular small block Chevy Monte Carlo SS. Yeah. And that car had a specific exhaust back in the day, and my buddy put Flowmasters on his. And in this case, we put a MagnaFlow kit on it, but added resonators up front to bring the noise level down, and it's great. It's super solid. It runs perfect. It's a great car. So.
What do you think about when you get into a kind of a hot roddy car and it's really quiet like that? Well, because normally you expect it to be kind of loud and rumbly and really make a ruckus. But what's it like when it's really quiet?
What I like is the split personality cars, and this Monte Carlo definitely wakes up on the volume side when you put your foot down.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that's great.
That is great.
What I find is my own preference is I like to use the car as much as I can, which means I don't always want it screaming at me. I want to be able to listen to the person next to me. I want to be able to listen to my music. But when I want to have fun with it, I want to know that there's something going on. So sometimes that means installing cutouts. Sometimes that means MagnaFlow mufflers in particular have an ability to dampen some of the obnoxious tones and then let everything out when you really lean on them, and they do a great job at it. So that's one of the reasons why we like those so much, is they offer that ability. But I talked to a potential customer today who wants a car with over 800 naturally aspirated horsepower. So that's going to be high compression, big cam. It's going to make noise all the time.
Did he say what his engine size limitation is?
We haven't really gotten that far into it yet. It's probably going to be a big block Chevy of some sort.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say you could probably get like an aftermarket, like 632 cubic inch big block.
Yeah.
And not have to stress it too badly to make that kind of power.
No, I'm not really worried about making the power. It's more of managing it when you're not using it. Right, yeah. Because if you're going to go to the burger stand and you're idling and loping this thing that really wants to go, that's when things get a little bit stressful.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that question originally was I was at I think it was at my GTO show a number of years, probably 5-6 years ago, and there was a 66 GTO there that had just started. The car just started. He was driving off the show field. And this car must have been bone dry original stock. It even had the original, or I don't know if the original, but it had resonators on it after the mufflers. And this was the quietest GTO I've ever heard in my life. And it was almost off-putting because every car you ever hear now, is either it has headers and, not much in the way of mufflers, and it's really loud, and you really can hear it from far away. But this thing, was so quiet. It sounded like a modern car. It was amazing at how quiet this thing was.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that when those cars were new, they weren't very loud.
Right. And that was my point. Everyone day two'd them and ditched the resonators and put louder mufflers on there, put headers on it, and, crossover pipes or X pipes or whatever, and, jacked them up and did all their day two mods and really turned them into a big hot rod.
Right.
Instead of the stock car they were when they came off the showroom floor.
Even, when we shoot Muscle Car of the Week, and we'll be standing in the Brothers Collection and fire up a perfectly correct original 426 Hemi car, like a Coronet or one of the bigger ones, a Roadrunner or something, and you're like, that's it? The valve train makes more noise than the exhaust half the time.
Right, right.
And I almost think that, of course, the manufacturers had to have a noise concern. They couldn't be putting open header cars out. But I think they knew, everybody was going to rip this stuff off because it robbed power and sound and everything. And, of course, another, previous trivia question, of course, the Pontiac guys had the Humbler exhaust.
Right.
Dual mode.
Right.
Exhaust.
That's right, man.
The loud.
How many were there? 122?
Yeah, I missed it by 4 or something, I guess.
Yeah, you were really close, man.
Yeah.
I was sweating for real.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Well, speaking of low number Pontiacs, we've got one coming in the shop, I'm hoping, on Monday. It's been another victim of weather. It's a Midwest guy that our weather has been. This winter's been very long, and I've got all these people on the phone. They're like, "Yeah, as soon as it warms up, I'm bringing you a car." So I'm hoping we don't get just completely bum rushed with cars. But this one's coming in Monday. It's a '76 Trans Am LE, which is a 455 car from the factory, 455 HO, and I think there was 300 hardtops made and 100 T-top cars. And it's a 411 4-speed.
Holy cow!
All original numbers.
Factory 411s.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
That
rips.
From what I've been told, yeah. And but at the same time, it's probably kind of miserable getting somewhere. But I bet it's a lot of fun to drive.
yeah. There's that.
Yeah.
If you have to go faster than 40 miles an hour, you're probably going to get your fillings rattle out of your teeth and your eardrums, blown out and all that stuff. Yeah, I get it.
This is going to be a cool project because, again, this guy's never going to sell this car, but we are tasked with putting a Holley Sniper Quadrajet fuel injection system on it. Okay. And the Holley Sniper Quadrajet is a throttle body design they came out with last year that has the spread bore of a Quadrajet instead of a square bore of a Holley.
Oh, wow.
And it'll drop on his stock manifold. That's an HO car, so it has a functioning shaker hood scoop with the door. So that will be in the right spot because that's always a concern. And we're going to take the original tank down and set it aside and just put a brand new reproduction tank with the fuel module in it and everything. And
nice.
We will not alter this car in any way,
Oh, yeah, man.
And he will be able to turn the key and go, which is great.
Right on.
He watched our video of doing that 78 Trans Am a couple years ago on YouTube and called as soon as he got done watching it. He's like, I think I need this. So
I think he's right.
Well, it's all to help him enjoy the car. And he said he only got to drive it a few times last year because it wouldn't start. And then he took the Quadrajet off and sent it to somebody, and they didn't do a great job with it. And, he's got all this time in it, and it's just not doing what he wants. So we will, of course, keep all those original parts with the car and send them home. And I kind of planted the seed and said, is there anything else that you're thinking about on this thing? we've talked about this before. We call it might as well syndrome.
Right.
When a car comes in and they go, well, it's there, you might as well do this and do that.
Right.
Which is great, but it sometimes can disrupt our planning for getting the next customer in because now this one is here longer and longer, which is, like I said, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But we're always trying to figure out what really the goal is, so maybe we can help plan for that.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you think about this thing? And he's like, because that 410 or 411 rear end, a 5-speed overdrive might be kind of nice too.
Boom.
Because it is a 4-speed from the factory. And the cool thing there is that we could reuse the pedal and the Z-bar and the clutch and the bell housing and just drop the 4 out, put a Tremec TKO in, shifter will come through the same hole.
Yeah.
Splines
that would help
match.
A lot.
Oh, it'd make them, believe me, can you imagine
it'd be a totally different car.
Fuel injection and overdrive and that thing, and keep that gear, it would be insane.
Yep. That's got to happen.
Super fun. Well, so we're trying to get a handle on, what the cost would be for that for him, so he can make that decision if he wants to do it or not. He wants to do it. It's just a matter of if it fits. If it fits, but that's how they all are.
Yeah. So how's my favorite project in the V8 Speed and Resto shop doing? How's that coming along? You know what I'm talking about.
Let's see. Would that be the Black 72 CUDA?
You're close.
Let's see. Would it be the 79 Trans Am with the LS? It's the 55 F100 we just brought in with the Coyote.
Bingo. God damn it.
Oh, you mean the
Tyrol Blue 67 GTO.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It is doing really well. It is just getting ready to get some final sanding to go get sealer and color on the outside. So the jams are all painted. You saw pictures of that. All the sheet metal's on. It runs and drives the Phytech Pontiac 400 fuel injected motor.
Yeah.
It is. It's a complete vehicle right now without the glass in the interior, basically.
Cool.
It's got a Dakota digital dash in it at this point. That looks right.
Good.
Looks clean. Obviously it's not correct original gauges, but it's clean looking.
Right. Yeah.
So you noted our recent expansion. This is one that we wanted to make sure our new paint facility is 100% up to speed before we run that one through.
Gotcha.
And the story there is that as we moved into this shop, it's got a blow-therm baking downdraft paint booth in it, but we felt the obligation to clean and replace all the filters and all of the some of the air lines. We actually put a new compressor in it, and just to make sure that we're getting everything we can out of this operation. Right. So it's
the right thing to do.
Yeah. It was in a collision shop, and for their uses, everything was fine. But we're trying to ratchet quality up everywhere we can.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And so Jeff, our painter, and Jonathan, one of our shop techs, Jonathan spent a bunch of time. They actually repainted the whole inside of the booth, sanded it all down, made it all nice and bright white. Nice. We had a booth guy come in and dial in all the damper doors and air handlers and stuff for the air evacuation system, and it's spotless now. And Jeff eased into it, the painter, and started spraying smaller parts and making notes and analyzing airflow. And we had a guy come in with all these airflow meters all over the place to measure that everything's doing what it's supposed to do. So far, the things that he sprayed, and I shared a picture yesterday of some primered parts for that duster.
The duster, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, primer normally isn't supposed to be shiny. But the bodywork is so flat on this, and the spray out was so uniform that he sprayed them, he baked them, they're dry, and they are shiny in primer. So I'm so excited to see how the color process goes and the clear on that duster, and then of course the GTO. So that's going to be a huge win for our customer that his car came through during this time. Which isn't to say that our guys weren't able to do high quality work in the past, but now it's definitely a more controlled environment, and it's better tools for the job. So
nice. That duster's been in there a while, hasn't it? That one had a lot of sheet metal done to it, didn't it?
Poor Duster had everything done to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing that when the thing was cut open pretty severely.
Yeah. And
the last time when Paul and I were down there, when we learned to weld.
Right.
I think it was there.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a finish line, in the crosshairs for that one too.
Sure.
And it's going to be insane. And I think it's another example of some of these cars that, when they come in, I have the ability to kind of envision the final product and say that's going to look really nice. What I don't envision is how much care our team takes at every step. And they just keep making it nicer and nicer and nicer and nicer. And then pretty soon you're like, wow, yeah, that's super nice. So, which is a wonderful thing to happen, as opposed to the opposite, where it's like, well, what happened to this car? That doesn't happen. Everything's always nicer than, what I'm anticipating. So that's really great.
That is really great. Yeah, those guys, they do good work.
Yes.
They do good work.
They really do.
To put it mildly.
Yeah, we're very thankful for it. So, I know that there was a couple tangents in this episode, but I'm sure people are dying to know the answer to our trivia questions.
They are dying to know. All right, here we go.
As am I.
Asked you, yeah. I asked you, how many cars are on the moon, sir? And you told me, let's see, you said what, like Apollo 12 or 13? And
not 13, 12, and then I think 2 more after
not
that.
13, oh, shoot.
Didn't make it. My guess was 4. My backup guess is 2, but 4 is my official answer.
Well, Kevin, you're pretty close with 4. There are a total of 5 cars on the moon.
Ah, man.
There were 3 by the United States and 2 by the Soviets.
Aha.
In fact, the Soviets were actually the first to put a car on the moon. They have a remote control car they put there in 1970 with their mission Luna 17, and then again in 1973 with Luna 21. And the Americans put it in there with from 1971 and 72 with Apollos 15, 16, and 17.
So I was wrong on my guess with 12 too.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, you were close with the total number.
Yes, yeah.
But I don't think you took the Soviets into account on that one.
I certainly didn't, and you cleverly framed it to where I wouldn't have considered that. So
I'm taking a lesson from the Kevin Ossie School of Trivia question asking. Leave you down the primrose path and the whatcha, gotcha.
It's not what you take out; it's what you leave in. Very nice. All right, well, I lose. Speaking of that.
Speaking of losing. Damn it.
So the question to you was, what is the longest interstate in the United States? And the bonus, where does it start and stop? And your guess was I-40 from CA to VA. In fact, the longest interstate is I-90.
God dang it.
It's in your own backyard.
It is in my own backyard. Thank you very much for mentioning that.
Yeah, and it runs, if you're going to go the direction that you went, which was west to east, it starts in Seattle and goes to Boston.
Gee whiz.
3,020.54 miles.
I was going to say I-92, but I'm like, nah, too easy.
Yeah. And then I guess the second is I-80, which is also in your backyard.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Which is 2,900 miles. But there you go.
Son of a biscuit.
Yeah.
I-40, you let me down.
You're not the first one to say that, I think.
Yeah. I used to travel I-40 when I lived in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah, we take I-40 out to Vegas for SEMA, 40 to 70, and then down to 15. And so there you go. Well, again, this one kind of raced by. I apologize to our listeners for the tangents, but tried to keep it a little contextual. We did talk about cars this time.
Cars on the moon.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We are not only international, we are now interplanetary.
That's right.
We're really big on the moon.
Intergalactic.
Really big on the moon.
The moon in Tennessee. We're huge.
Yeah, the moon in Tennessee. That sounds like a country song.
It will be. So again, we appreciate everybody for listening and sharing some time with us. A little distribution news. We've been pumping the iTunes thing quite a bit, but we are now available on Spotify as well.
That's right.
Which
Yes,
is,
sir.
Pretty cool. So for those who use the Spotify app on their phones or whatever device, you can look us up there now. Of course, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, TuneIn Radio. You're always welcome to come to our Facebook page and that, like Kelly just
said. But go to iTunes. Go to iTunes.
Go
to iTunes. But go to iTunes.
Like Facebook, and then go visit us on iTunes.
Don't forget about iTunes.
Right. And, of course, v8radio.com. And the fun thing is we do put up a picture for each episode on Facebook and on V8 Radio. So if you're listening to one of the others and you've not seen our themed image, iTunes only puts the V8 Radio logo, it's cool, but it's not as entertaining as the picture on the other ones. But
True.
Spotify does the picture too.
I had an idea because when Jennifer gave me that trivia question, if our listeners would like us to answer or ask a trivia question of theirs, maybe they should message because Kevin and I like to not know what the other trivia question is. So if you want one of us to ask your trivia question, maybe direct message one of us through Facebook would probably be easiest, or your email if you want to give that, or my Facebook instant message, and we'll read your question on the air.
Yeah, right on. And we'll get that.
Please provide the answer as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe it could be something where, I like where you're going with this. I think what he's trying to say is if you guys send us questions and answers, then we don't have to look these up.
I'm just trying to involve our listeners more.
Well, I've been trying to, the trivia question thing, I would love to involve the listeners, but it's a little tricky because we can say, let's throw a question out for the listeners, and then you can post your answer. But that allows them to look it up.
Right.
When we do this, we are not looking these up. We are just,
exactly.
I mean the answers. We might look up the question.
But my point is, if they message us privately,
right,
we could give it out for the rest of the listeners,
and we could maybe
as
have
well
them,
as our co-host.
Maybe at this episode, we could ask a question and provide the answer next time, and people can guess along the way.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, there's that. But they can still look it up.
That's true. See, that's that darn internet thing.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's gone are the days of Encyclopedia Britannica.
Or knowing anything on your own, yeah.
Or knowing anything on your own. Look it up. Look it up, Michael.
Google
look it up. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, this was fun. This was a good one.
Yeah, this was a great one. I enjoyed this.
Yeah. Hopefully our new listeners enjoyed it as well. And I guess we will do it again soon. And I'm Kevin Ostie from Mike Clark. Thanks for listening, and keep the shiny side up.